Hello everyone, I'm Alfian and today we are going to solve the Hackerrank React challenge on the React topic called the blog post. And for this particular challenge, our task is to create a React application called blog post that allows user to create, display and delete blog posts. So it's like CROUD but without the U. Then the application requirements are detailed below. And the finished application must pass all of the unit tests. And for this readme instruction, these files are considered read-only files and we cannot edit it. Editing them will result in 0 score. It will not be counted towards the score after we submitted this particular challenge. And for the detailed requirements, the blog post component should have two input fields. One is for the post title and another is for the post description, is the text area. And the application should display a create button that when clicked adds a new blog post to the list of existing posts. The create button should only add a post if both the title and description fields have values. If either field is empty, the button should not create a post. So let's iterate from this. Number one, blog post component should have two input fields, one for the post title and another for the post description. This part for the blog post, maybe the input part right here. Yeah, this one has the text area field and the input field. This one is the input component. And for the create post, where is the button? Yeah, this button is on the home component. The home is the one that wrap all of the input fields, the button and also the component which is the title and description and delete. And this one is the, I assume it's a post display. So we have two input fields. Okay, so those two is the point number one. And for the application, so display a create button that when click adds a new blog post to the list of existing posts. So this one for this create post button. So we can write our to do for the button to button click triggers create post. Create button when click and blog post to the list of existing posts. New list to the existing posts. So it's somehow adding another one to the post display right here. Let's scroll through the post display. I'm using the shift and scroll to scroll through the files. Using control and scroll will move the tab display right here so we can see better of what we are working. So for the post display, for the point number two, display create button that when clicked as a new blog post to the list of existing posts. So for the to do button create post will add another post list of existing posts. Let's see if we copy this div and the post box. Okay, it does something. Let's add another one. Okay, and we can, this way we can get the better idea of what we're working here. We'll add another post. Part is the post box, and we need some kind of useState that handles the useState that handles the list of posts. So after the useState that contains an array of posts, and then it will be displayed right here using the map function. Maybe we can do that by centralizing the state, so the input and post display is going to have, they both are going to have only one controller, one centralized controller. And for the create button, should only add a post if both the title and description fields have values. If either field is empty, the button should not create a post. Okay, so for the create button, button click for empty input, either the title or description. There's nothing. So if both the title and description fields have values, if either field is empty, the button should not create a post. And we need some kind of useState. useState for both inputs and passing the props. And then we need to declare home.js in the title and the description for the useState. And once a post is successfully created, both the title and description fields should be clear. Triggers create post, clears all input including the title and description. For the number 4 and for the number 5, the list of created blog posts should be displayed in a grid layout with each post appearing inside a box. And so we already did that earlier. Create another post, post box, useState array of posts. It will be centralized, I think. Centralized inside the home.js of the useState array of posts. And each box should include the post title, which is the post title right here, the post title, and then the post description, and a delete button to remove the specific post from the list. So for the delete button, we need, for the delete button will pass the ID, some kind of ID of the post. Post title, post description, a delete button to remove the specific post from the list. Yeah, the to do button will delete button will pass the ID of the post with a function. It's some kind of function to execute the deletion of a post of the selected. And for the initial state, the title and description fields are empty. For the input, description it filled with the description text, and then adding the to do initial field are empty, so we can use useState right here. useState hook, no blog posts are displayed. And for this initial value, initial rendering, we should not render anything. We already comment this out. User enters the title and the description in the respective input fields. User clicks the create button, the new post is added to the grid with the enter title and description. The input fields are clear. User clicks the delete button next to a blog post. The selected blog post is removed from the grid. Okay, so let's do this by declaring the useState constant title, set title using the useState. The useState is not showing yet right here. We can declare besides the react with the comma, and then using the curly brackets. Inside the curly brackets we can declare the useState right here, useState hook, useState of the empty string, because we want the empty string for the both title and description fields. We can set both of the inputs as one object by let me try this. Const input and set input useState of an object that contains both the title that should be empty string for the initialization, and for this description object is also an empty string. So let's pass in our props to the input title props, and then for the title we can take the input.title, and then for the description props we can pass in the input of the property of description. And then if we scroll through the input.js, we can declare a props from home.js, the title and the description. So let's declare the props by destructuring the props title and then the description. Don't worry about the props destructurization has not been shown up from this input title and description, but we got the props name correct of the title and description. And then for this part and the title value we can pass in the title, and for this description we can pass in the description from the home.js. Let's reload this. Okay, so it's now an empty, both have empty strings, and we need some kind of function to change this value right here. So after we change anything inside the input, it will be reflected on the home.js, so it will be registered on the home.js useState of input and set input. By we already have the set input function right here of the useState. We can use onChange attribute right here that pass in the e. Don't forget the e because we are changing the input. And then for the e we can use curly brackets and pressing enter. We can pass in the from the home.js we have the set input, so we can use the passing the set title as the props, set title, or using set input right away, set input, and then we can destructure them later. Set input, the set input props right here, and let's go back to the input.js and passing the set input, and then we can use the set input from the home.js set input, and we don't have to use the previous value of the set input of the parameter. Then we can directly insert, we can use the previous, forgive me, I'm using the previous because we are operating an object right here of the title and description. So for the previous, let me see, maybe we need to destructure the destructure the previous like this, I think. Previous and then comma, if I remember correctly. And then comma, that takes the title, I think. Oh yeah, the title. The previous, the title. And then for the after the colon, we can insert the target value, but it's not being rendered correctly. It's showing red underline errors. So let's wrap this inside the parenthesis. The previous title, maybe it's directly title. Set input. Let's predict the previous because it's an object. So in the previous first. So we are not directly mutating the set input useState for the title. We can change the target value. Let's test this out using the useEffect, and then we can use the useEffect below the state, passing the useEffect, passing an anonymous function. And then for the second parameter, which is the dependency, we can depend on the input, and inside the curly brackets of the anonymous function, we can declare console.log to see the title of what we are working here inside the input. So the console.log will fires every time we change the title inside the input.js, inside the input variable of the useState. I'm sorry. Let's use this. Let's write something. Title. So the useEffect has been reflected properly. Let us write once again. It's an empty string. Now if we type the T, it's reflected. Ti reflected. Title. It's all recorded successfully of the useState without ruining something. So we can do the same thing on the onChange attribute on the text area of the description right here. I already copied the onChange attribute from the set input to save the time. Set input previous, the text the previous and string the previous, and for this description object, you can use the e.target.value property. So let's console.log input just the input. Okay, so the description is an empty string. Let's write something. Enter description. So it's reflected properly. Okay, let's comment on the useEffect because we already test. Okay, for the to-do number 1, it's already completed, and for the to-do number 2, initial fields are empty using useState. Okay, so for this post display and home, let us working on the home. Button click for empty input, either the title or description does nothing. Yeah, we can add a check of the to-do number 1 right here. If one or more of the inputs are empty, then the create post button will do nothing. So let's add a check. We can declare a function right here called the create post. It's an arrow function, and then that takes an empty parameter because we are already working on the useState right here. We can utilize them later. For the create post, button click for empty input, either the title or description does nothing. So we can add a check if the input idle. How do we check an empty string? Let's write something. Yes, empty string. Check empty string. Let me see the free code cam for a second. Yeah, we can use this part. Let's go back to our blog post. and make it full screen again, and we can check if the string trim or the input title it's in the form of a string, so we change the string str to the input.title because it's from a string, and read the object right here of the input. If it's already been trimmed of the white spaces, yeah, the trim does that. Remove the reading and training white space, and the line terminator character from a string. Line terminator is an enter, I think, enter character, or the backslash and n, and the length is equals to 0 after the trim, or the input. Let me copy this. We can add 2 checks if either the input title and the description is empty description, then we can return earlier, then we return and do nothing and do nothing. Add to do if both are not empty, do something. Maybe we can add another useState that carries the array of post card with the constant called the post and set post. Maybe we can use the plural form of post useState that takes the empty array to do if both are not empty, do something. So if both are not empty, do something, and for this do something we have to set post in inserting both the title and description inside the set post array. Set post that takes the previous because we are working in an array. We can do the same to the we can do the same thing to the object, not just the array. So we take the previous parameter or the previous value of the post, and then previous, I think it's using the it's also an array, and spreading the previous inside the array, and then inserting another one besides the array, inserting at the end that takes the object of input. We can write input since we are using the JavaScript instead of TypeScript. That is easier to work with. Input takes the input.title, and for the description object we can take the input.description. So this useState is in a form of array of objects like this, will be displayed like this as the data structure. Inside the object is the object have title and description. So after we set the post, after setting the post, then we can clear the both of the inputs using the set input that takes the, because we are setting the title as empty, we can use the previous, I think, using the previous and using the brackets or parentheses, and inside the brackets you can declare the object, the text the previous, and for the title you can pass in the empty heading. Let's comment out the set post, and we should check for the set input if it's properly eliminated. After we successfully create a post, all of the input are eliminated. Let's create the post. The text the previous title. Create post. Oh, I forgot to add onClick attribute right here and pass in the create post function. Let's check this out. Okay, so it's now working for the set input. Let's delete the description. Okay, so it's only the title. Okay, working as expected. Description, I was afraid that this function is not working as expected, and that would confuse us in the long run. So let's bring back the set post, and to do a button click for empty input. Let's go back to the track. Go button click for empty input. Either the title or description does nothing. So let's create post with nothing. The empty title, create post, does nothing, and also both of them also does nothing. Let me use the console log to quickly check. If the input or the button working as we want. Check create post, does nothing, and also for the empty string or just space, does nothing, and also does nothing. Let's comment this out just to make sure. Create post created, input, both inputs are clear. Let's bring back post created. Okay, so we can working on add useState for both inputs, passing the props. Add useState for both inputs, passing the props. We already did that of the set input right here. Only to the button click triggers create post, clears all input and of the title and description. Yeah, we also already did that for this set input right here. And for this input, declare props from home.js. Initial fields are empty using this useState. It's already centralized right here. Of the title empty, the description is also empty for the initial render. And then for this post display, yeah, we need to pass the post display right here. Post display, post section, post display. We can take props of the array of posts. Post array. Then we can use passing the post array that we declare right here. And then for the post array, let's destructure the post display or the post props dot is named post create post. We'll add another post card post box useState array of posts. To do delete button, we'll pass the ID of the post. Okay, the ID or ID, yeah. Create post will add another post. So let's display this. Don't forget to use curly brackets because we are working inside the return statement right here of the renderer. You can use pulse map, I think, pulse map. Maybe I want to declare an array right here, so the map function will show some. Oh, it's not working. Let's just make this, because we are working in a JavaScript environment. Post map that takes the post array and the index, because we will use the key as the index and then directly return it using the parentheses and render this div right here for the post card. Let's remove the comment. Oops, remove the comment, remove the comment again. Since it's a div, so we don't have to use the fragment tag, and then we can pass in the key and takes the index as the attribute. And for this title, for the heading tree, we can use post title, I think. Let's scroll this to the home to make sure we are working. Yeah, it's an object. It should be the title. Set post input title. Okay, before that I forgot something that we should test out our code right here of the post console.log post. Let's test out the set post if it's working correctly. Let's reload this. Let's enter the title. Test description. Let's create post. Object created. Input of the description. Test description. Yeah, it's initializing a new object or creating a new object besides the previous value of the object array. Test description for the second element, John Doe. Let's create post. Post created. The second element, John Doe. Let's see if we muted the first one. Yeah, it's now working as expected, I think. Let's remove the useEffect to make the console look a little bit cleaner. So pass in the post.title because it's an array of object. That object contains title, description, property, and also for the next one is also title and description, because we already mapped the post right here, post array. So let's pass in the description of post. You guess it, post description. And then for the delete button, we need to pass something on click. That deleting self or self-destructing, I think. Let me see. Delete button will pass the ID of the post with some kind of function to execute the deletion of the selected post. The self-destruct function right here. Maybe we can use some kind of function, constant function of the delete post, delete self, I think. Delete self that takes the index. Yeah, the index, because we are declaring an array. It takes the index, and this is an arrow function just like the other one, the home.js. On the delete self, we have to read from the home.js reading or modifying the set pose, we need the set pose right here to be passed on as the props of the pose display. Set pose, oops, using this little o, set pose. Yeah, we're passing this dispatch function of the useState and passing the set pose, and we can use the set pose, and the text the previous. Of course, we are not mutating the pose array directly, and then using the spreading this previous, set the array, and then using filter out if the index of object is not on the index of the existing array, so we are excluding the pose based on the index, so the spreaded previous array will be returning a new array without the specified index that we declare here as the parameter. So let's do that by using the object, filtering the object, then the object index is not on the, since it's an array, we are filtering the object, we are passing the index of the object to check, filter out if it's not the set object, then we exclude it from the newly created previous array right here. Object index is not equal to index, and we can add another check if the pose already the pose length. Oh, we don't have to, because okay, so since we are using the delete self, we don't have to check for the pose already has an element or not, because if it doesn't have any element or doesn't have any postcard, then the delete button will not show up, and thus makes the delete self does nothing, because yeah, the delete button is not showing up at all. And we can pass in the onClick that takes the, because we are working, yeah, let me remind you again, since we are using the delete self that pass in the parameter, let's say that this parameter is the index of the pose array right here, that takes the index. After the index has been passed, it will be processed, and then the new pose array will be filtered out, and then excluding the set index, and ultimately removing them from the array, removing the set pose. And for the delete self, since we are using the parenthesis right here, then we need to pass in the anonymous function, and then wrapping the delete self inside the curly brackets right here. So after the period, so this one is for the purpose of this one is for when we rendering the post display.js on the app.js, the delete self of the that passing with the I as the parameter here will not be triggered upon render. So it's wrapped in an array function, and then it will be triggered if the onClick, if the button has been clicked. If it's not being clicked, then the delete self will not be triggered at all, unless we are using the delete self without passing the parameter at all. Then we can pass in the onClick directly like this, and then after the initial render, then the delete self will not fire, will not be invoked. And then this way the delete self, without the passing anything, it will not be invoked upon rendering. Okay, so let's undo this, and the delete function will pass the ID of the post with some kind of function to execute the deletion of the selected post. Let's test this out. Enter the title, test, create post. Post has been created. The input has been cleared. Another one is in the John Doe, create post, and then it's the test, and also on the John Doe. Let's delete the test, so it does nothing. Set post is not a function. Okay, so let's test this out. It's in the console.log. So that log of the index of the post. We are currently diagnosing the problem, and this is the index. It's returning correctly. And for the set post, I don't know why it's still the previous filter. I don't know why it's still not working. Maybe using the map does the work. The map detects the empty because we are not passing the post. Without passing the post, just passing directly the index. Passing the index directly and check if the index is not on the index parameter that we selected right here. If it's not, then the map will omit the one that is not meet the criteria right here. So let's run this. Okay, set post is not a function. Let me use the previous map directly. Let me see. Okay, I think the filter already correct right here. I'm using this underscores to omit the post because we are not using the post, we are using the index element, so we take the second argument of the filter function right here. And since the filter is returning a shallow copy of the previous array, so we don't have to spreading the previous array like this, spreading the previous array and then passing it as the array. So instead we can just directly using the previous and filter turning shallow copy, and then check if the I of the filter argument right here is, which is the index, is not equals to the index that we selected right here. So the filter function will filter out the previous array of object that and omit the one that is selected, and it's omitted from the index of set post array or the post array. So I forgot to reload, and then this React environment is acting weirdly. So it's now it's working correctly, I think. Let's test it out. Test description. Let's create post, and then for another one, which is the John Doe, let's create post, and let's create another one, Alice Doe, create post, and then if we delete the test description right here, now it's working as expected. Let's revoke the console.log, and then yeah, let's run the test to see if it works. The blog post application says should add new blog post. Which one? Should add new blog post on clicking button when title and description are added. Yeah, we already created the post. What went wrong here? Let's look over the app.test.js. Let's find the test file or the test function. application. New blog post or clicking button when title and description are added. Oh, I forgot the title, to include the title of the preview. So for this post display, it should display the post description. Let's render this the post title. It's empty. Description. Okay, so the title has not been set correctly. Let's scroll through the home. Yep, set post is not working as expected because the object, the property should not input right here. It should have been the title, and I'm passing the input property as input. So forgive me for my mistake. So let's run this again. Create a new post. Test. Okay, so it's not working. Let's run the test again to see if it works. Okay, so that was a mistake from me. Okay, I hope you understand this video. Forgive me if it took so long. And if you have any questions or if you have any better solution for this particular React challenge, you can write in the comment section. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.